Good morning, good morning. My name's John Wright, and this is the second video of this morning. And this is one that I've been doing recently. It's the faces of victims. Well, here's a picture of my dad, George L. Wright, for number one. My dad's is as big a victim as I am, sitting right here in this motorhome. He should have a presidential pardon for what they've done to him. That's a picture that resembles my dad. That's a picture that looks like my brother Jim, by the way. My brother Jim told me, someday, John, you're going to learn. You're going to learn to live with your head down. You know, when my brother told me that, I told him, no, Jim. I said, the reason you're saying about this is because you guys murdered Terry Lance Shortridge on my bed. And I will never live with my head down and not look at the people straight in the eye and tell them the goddamn truth after you guys forced me to do something. And my brother Jim even came back and wanted me to help him murder Doug Steele, that he ended up turning into his best man, because he, for one, told Doug about the truth about Terry Lance Shortridge was murdered on my bed. Then Jim wants to involve me and said, we gotta silence him because I told him the truth, John. And I told Jim, I said, you opened your big mouth and you're sitting there flapping it for something that you guys forced upon me and did to me. You know? So my brother Jim, when I see this picture right here, I see the person that murdered my best friend, Terry Lance Shortridge, on my bed. And Lance after Terry Lance Shortridge, alphabet murders. You know, they doing signs. In Port Angeles, Washington, these people were living under like Hogan's Heroes. You know, I would hear that show. I was in the rabbit cage and I'd watch these people run through the house with their food and stuff, running out to watch this here stuff. And you know, I guess I'd get out of the fence or get out of the cage to be allowed to go out there and witness what was happening. The beginning of the show and the Stallark 13 and the running down and men running down and stuff like this, and what I'm seeing the news being broadcast to me at times of the Vietnam War. I didn't know that a president had been murdered. And I'll tell you another thing. When I was a child, right there when this stuff was going on, I believe it was 1967, prior to my dad's dad passing away. He took us to Sequim, Washington, to a fair, and my brother Jim was in a contest, a pie eating contest. And he should have won first place. And I'll tell you what, if you talk to the family about it, the Jerry and Bonnie and them, and got them talking, they tell you about that. Jim won that. They gave it to a girl. They gave Jim second prize. And it was a tapestry of John F. Kennedy. You know, I seen the contest. Jim won. Jim won the contest. Jim could eat watermelon. And anyway, he won second prize, and that tapestry ended up being in our house, and it was down at the end of the hallway on the wall. So every time I walked out of the bedroom, I seen that tapestry. And I'll tell you why I looked at that tapestry funny after that. It's because my brother Jim stood right there and said to me about that tapestry that he won, John, that's the tapestry of the president that got shot dead in the head. You know? And he's telling this with like just a little bit of fear and conviction. You know, I'm just telling you, this is what happened in Port Angeles, Washington. You know, I've been taken to a cage. There goes my dad's picture right there. It's good to go through my wall of shame and get this off my chest. Now look at that headstone right there. That's the Fairheart's headstone over there in the cemetery, Brown Cemetery, next to the bowling alley in Morton. Well, I got the Browns that owns that cemetery possibly wants to cut down this property behind this house. So this is all connected. And this Browns, that's Brown's fiberboard mill that's in Port Angeles, Washington. That's Brown's fiberboard mill in Antioch, California, where my dad was killing people on the opposite side of Mount Diablo, away from San Francisco, where he killed a taxi driver, and he was teasing Dave Toschi. And my dad sent me with all the clues to go back and do this. Now, this here cemetery stone, somebody's cleared off the words on it, and the person that did this is Linda Stanley, a friend of mine. This is the first woman that I've ever seen in a pair of panties across the street from that house on Division Street, which was the White's house that got burnt down. You know, and my brother Jim told me it was an arson fire. Apparently my brother Jim was involved with burning that because he gave me the information. Now here's the bowling alley that's in the background of this here picture. And they've put victory lanes on it. Victim Terry Lance Shortridge. Okay? Is what that means. And here's the new owner of the bowling alley right here on this ladder. And now the owner of the bowling alley sitting in the center in that dark shirt right there, John Dorsett. And there's his wife, Angie Dorsett. And they're in the cemetery. And what the hell are they showing me in the cemetery? Is that cemetery stone. Are these people being forced to, and they're showing me now? Because I goddamn questioned these people when they got this bowling alley. And this is the inside of my dad's bowling alley. And right over here, the flag's ripped half off. Hanging down, they're ripping it off. So I'm going through these here pictures this morning. And then, you know, I'm figuring out that over there on Division Street, Jim Kaiser lives. And here's this Morton Jane Doe, and they pay rent right down there to Jim Kaiser at Al Colburn's auto parts store, uptown Morton, Washington. You know, and this is what they've done, and they've used this here to silence the community. They cut off her hands and feet, and they put her next to Bob and Carol Whitlow's house. That is now up there at the top of the hill as you're leaving Morton, Washington. This woman's body was found. It's on the opposite side of the road as Shane Inglesby. That my brother went to his funeral, and he was so happy to tell me about Shane Inglesby's death. And now I'm getting all these things, that these things are all adding up, right down to these Connor boys in Port Angeles, Washington. Right next to, and then Bertha Burks. And there's L's in these people's names. And I'm in the cage with, and I'm in my cage, and me and my dad's being held hostage. Me and my dad's been hijacked. And now I'm sitting right here before your very eyes, and I'm telling you this story because my family has been either, here, put them on the spot and get them to talk up. Because I'm willing to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth about what I know. That boy was murdered in front of me in Morton, Washington, and I've even had my sister right here at this piece of property right here tell me that they all knew that I was lying in court, but they didn't know why. No, they knew why. But they said they said that things have been said in the past, and I'm repeating the things that's been said to me. But she put this murder on my head again. And you know what? When they put it on my head, and here I'm in a 37-foot motorhome, like I'm on lockdown for all these goddamn years, since I brought it to the attention of Bruce Kimsey about this 1985 murder. You know, I want these people's asses locked up for what they goddamn done. I don't think I'm asking for anything more than what you would expect as Americans. This is about the D.B. Cooper crimes. This is about forcing somebody to pay the price like my dad did. And why am I being held responsible for something my dad did? They put my picture all over shirts across the United States of America, and my brother's pictures too. Because my brother Jerry is absolutely dirty, and he sits there in court putting my mother through hell, which she probably deserved, from their standards. And I actually did my little pinky move in the thing. I didn't understand this little pinky move was about John F. Kennedy, and she's been doing this to me all these years. This little pinky thing. And then I tracked it down to the John F. Kennedy, the book conservatory, everything that's been going on, this Hezbollah, George Fairhart and Morton Washington, my mother telling me the story about holding people hostages and they'll cut the baby in half if they don't do what they want, like the Solomon thing, 2 women's fighting over a child. Marietta and Bonnie was fighting over a child. My sister even named her son Kevin Henry. My mother hates him. I didn't know. I didn't know that they were hiding hate. I witnessed my sister pull a horse into my mother's house in Port Angeles, Washington, and she didn't know I was there. And I confronted her and I told her about it in front of her husband. And you should have seen the looks on her face. No, it didn't happen. Well, yes, it did happen. But, and Patty Shalver, Patty Shalver shoved her into it because I'm cross-eyed. I had problems. They were doing me a favor. I needed to die. Like Terry Lance Shortridge. We did him a favor. My mother's breeding them to say, we did him a favor. My mother said about her own son, her own brother, Jerry Lee Dunn, that's buried right there next to the farm at 15619 Northeast 3rd Street, Brush Prairie, Washington. He needed to die. He had rickets. Why did he have rickets? Because he was malnutritioned. Is one of the things that I come up with. People need to eat good. People need to eat food. I think that's partially what it's about. I don't know all the things, but I am telling you what I know. 13 minutes flat the Zodiac.